Okay, so we want to verify this trig identity, cotangent of x times the quantity secant of x minus sine of x is equal to cosecant of x minus cosine of x. And to do that, we start with the more complicated side as our given information, and we try to show that it equals the less complicated side. So I'm going to just jot down in the bottom corner here where I'm headed, which is cosecant of x minus cosine of x. That's what I want to show is true. And then I'll just erase this to leave the more complicated side and then list that as my given information. Okay. And to get rid of the parentheses there and simplify things, I'm going to use the distributive property. So I'll be left with cotangent of x times the secant of x, and then we'll distribute and get negative cotangent of x times the sine of x, and that was using the distributive property as the reason for step number 2. Okay, now I'm going to jot down in the corner here my trig identity hexagon, which is a graphic organizer to help me remember the fundamental trig identities. So we always start with tangent in the left vertex and then the quotient identity. So tangent is sine divided by cosine, and we fill in the rest with our reciprocal identities. So the reciprocal of cosine is secant, the reciprocal of sine is cosecant, and the reciprocal of tangent is cotangent, and in the center we always put a 1. Okay, so looking at what I've got here, since I have products, I'm going to check these to see if they are product identities on the hexagon. So cotangent is here, and secant is here, and if you recall the product properties, they meet in the middle here. So the product of cotangent times secant is cosecant. That would be a product identity. So I can replace cotangent times secant with its product, which is cosecant of x. Okay, then that's a minus, and looking again on the hexagon, cotangent is here and sine is over here, and so sine and cotangent meet in the middle with cosine. So cosine is the product of sine and cotangent, which means I can use a product identity again for this cotangent times sine, and that is equal to the cosine of x. Our reason for step 3 was applying product identities. Yep. Okay. And then when we compare what we just discovered to what our goal was, which was to show that the cosecant of x minus the cosine of x was equal to what we started with, the more complicated side, which was cotangent of x times the quantity secant of x minus sine of x, and we've achieved that goal. So we have verified this trig identity.